What's up, everybody? Josh or Miho here. I hope everybody's doing good and well and stuff. I got an album review to do for you, and I'm going to be talking to you about the new collaborative effort between Sunn and Ulver entitled Terrestrials. This is released on Southern Lord Records. Now, this is an album that I have had a very, very high amount of interest in as soon as I first heard that this was going to be made into an actual full-length album. I mean, you have two different bands that do two different music styles, and to hear that they're going to collaborate and work on something really just makes the listener very interested. But before I get into this album, let me just give you a quick rundown on both bands, just in case you don't happen to know who either of them are. I'm pretty sure everybody knows who each of these bands are, but you never know. I just gotta throw this out there for the sake of this review. Um, if you're not aware of Sunn, they are based out of Los Angeles, California, and they are pretty much one of the most well-known bands to come out of drone experimental music. I mean, just two really heavily tuned guitars, lots of feedback and distortion, and lots of experimentation. I mean, from their debut album Void to the White albums to efforts like Black One, the Alter EP, the live church recording of Domekirk, and their 2009 effort Monoliths and Dimensions. This band has such a wide detail of ideas and thoughts behind their noise. I mean, incorporations of doom, black metal, experimentation. There's just so much crazy and unique things that they build upon within their sound. It's not just guitar feedback and noise. There is way more to it than that, and they have gained so much popularity throughout the years, making not only their band very well known, but their record label well known as well, Southern Lord Records. It's just incredible. Now we get to the other band that's involved in this project, and that band being Ulver. They are based out of Norway, and this band has had one of the most interesting and unique kind of careers to ever have. Because at first glance, this band was responsible for creating some incredible folky black metal, preferably albums like Bergtatt and Nattens Madrigal. Both of those albums really were the pinnacle of what Norwegian black metal sound could possibly sound like. Very distorted, very, very true, very cult, as some people like to say. But those two albums were really, really cornerstones for the band and what definitely make Ulver very well known. But after their black metal days, they decided to shift into a more avant-garde experimental kind of sound, and that's the sound they've been sticking with ever since the 2000s and later on. Pretty much shifting from a black metal sound to a more experimental, electronic, alternative, almost alternative type of sound. I mean, stuff like Perdition City, Shadows of the Sun, to some of their most recent full-length efforts like War of the Roses and their operatic piece from last year, Messe 110 through 610. Just an incredible album. So daring, so bold, and so unique. Ulver are a band that dare to be different and not stick to the norm. Now we get to this collaborative effort, which involves both parties, both Sunn and Ulver, and we have this 3-track offering called Terrestrials. It's only 3 tracks, but it clocks in at around 35 minutes in length, and pretty much with each single song that's on here, you are going to get the best qualities of both bands. But what I will say is this: do not come into Terrestrials thinking that this is going to be the typical Sunn record that is just straight up heavy, destructive riffs, lots of heavy feedback, just feeling scary. I mean, if you're expecting Black One or Monoliths and Dimensions, you're not going to be expecting that kind of record at all. This album has a more peaceful, serene kind of quality to it. And it's very well evidented upon the first track of this album, Let There Be Light. It's 11.5 minutes, and basically what that song is just 8 straight minutes of building up. It's a buildup of bass, heavy bass, drone, piano, brass section horns. You're going to hear a lot of orchestration throughout this entire album, whether it be through keys or piano, keys, brass, trumpets, violas, violins. You're going to get a whole bunch of instrumentation and orchestration going on throughout this album, but it's very well evidented on the very first track. But once 8.5 minutes passes by, you get to hear a little bit of a crescendo come towards. You hear a drum fill or two. It sounds very spastic and crazy, but then it continues on with the noise and drone that you hear on the very opening minutes of the track. It all just comes full forward, and it just sounds so glorious. It has a glorious type of vibe and quality to it, and it's very, very interesting. It's a very nice way to start a record. Then we get to the track Western Horn, which is about 9.5 minutes in length. And pretty much, if there's any song that could definitely represent the Sunn side of the split, it would definitely be Western Horn. Because basically what Western Horn is somewhat of a building around a single note. It feels as if there's a single note that's being done throughout this entire track, but yet there's so much stuff going on around it, and it just builds up and builds up and builds up. It almost has a suspenseful type of quality to it. I mean, you hear the distortion, the bass feedback, the guitar feedback, the droning. You hear violins that just sound as if these violins are emotional. It's as if they're weeping, so to speak. That's the kind of feeling you get when you listen to the violin work that you hear on the track. It's another very interesting and unique turn for this record. But then we get to the closing track of this album, and that track being Eternal Return. Now, this is the track that was recently released to the public, albeit in the form of a 3.5 minute instrumental excerpt, because that's not the full song. The full song in and itself is around 15, almost 14 to 15 minutes in length. It's a very long song. And for the first half of this track, you're going to get what you got with the first two tracks. You're going to get a great deal of atmosphere, a great deal of attention to detail, orchestration, guitar riffs, droning, just a whole lot of different music styles going on with that track, and it's all done very beautifully and very, very tastefully. I enjoy what's being done with the first half of this track. Then as we get to the second half of the song, we have what pretty much is the only song to feature any sort of vocal styles going on. And of course, the vocals are coming from Christopher, who is the frontman of Ulver. Of course, you recognize his crooning singing style. He has a very wonderful singing voice. I love the way he delivers his voice in the crooning manner that he does. And for the majority of the closing moments of the track, he does do some singing, and the lyrics have a little bit of a almost Egyptian biblical type of vibe. I can almost feel a niche vibe going on with the lyrics that are being done on the track. And pretty much the way that he sings about the Red Sea, and pretty much it kind of reminds me of what the concept of the last Ulver record was. There seemed to be a bit of a biblical kind of vibe and feeling to it. And yet on Eternal Return, you get a little bit of what was on the last Ulver record on here. It sounds interesting. And I think Christopher definitely pulls it off with his vocal performance here. I think it's fantastic. And as his vocals come to an end on this track, then comes back to the droning, the instrumentation, the orchestration, and the atmosphere. It's just something that surrounds you and engulfs you in what's going on, and I think it's incredible. This is an album that I definitely would recommend to anyone with a loud speaker system or a great pair of headphones. This is something that you need to really be in a room and just let the surround sound speakers get you intense and get you hyped up and get excited. I mean, this is further proof that both of these bands are willing to take risks and do something incredibly crazy. It might be crazy to some people may like it, some people may not like it, but at the end of the day, this is just another crazy piece of experimentation from Sunn. They just added Ulver to the mix, and I think this is an absolutely beautiful album. I think that it really runs on in the way that it's supposed to. I don't think it's too long. I don't think it's too short. I think they put it just right with this collaborative effort, and I think it is absolutely fantastic. If you're a fan of both of these bands, their respective works, if you have an open mind to many musical styles, whether it be drone or metal or electronic or experimental stuff, this is the album for you to check out. This has a little of both of what both of these bands are best known for. I know this album is definitely going to get a lot of people talking, and I think this is another great 2014 release. Definitely something I may consider for my top 20 this year. This is a jewel of a record. I'm going to leave you a link in the description box to the official Bandcamp page for this particular album. You can purchase both, if I'm not mistaken, the CD version and the vinyl. When I last checked the Sunn's official Southern Lord page, the vinyls were sold out. They sold out very fast. They had red, white, and black colors. I bought the red one, and I am looking forward to receiving it sometime within February. This will be out on February the 3rd officially. Definitely buy it when it is available. Stream it on both of their respective Bandcamps or on the official Bandcamp page, which I will link in the description box. So this is a great listen, and hopefully you'll find some kind of enjoyment out of it. I know I did, and if you did, that's great. If not, no worries. So, again, the album is Terrestrials by Sunn and Ulver. This is released on Southern Lord Records. Definitely check this out. And for the time being, I'm going to give this a very strong 9 out of 10. This is a masterful release. Very beautiful, very peaceful, very serene. And it definitely showcases what Sunn and Ulver are all about. So support both of these bands. I'm going to conclude this review. Thanks a lot for watching. Thanks for turning on my channel. And until the next time, runnerjma out.